welcome to the Tavern Chat Podcast. This is episode number 49. I'm your host, Eric Tenkar, your bartender in the OSR, the main proprietor at the Tenkar's Tavern blog. So, this is the morning of July 4th, Independence Day here in the States. So, I'm sure tonight will be nice and noisy. Today, I am going to look at the OSR, in particular, the beginning of the OSR. Now, I've covered bits and pieces of this in different ways on the blog site over the years, but Christopher Bishop put up a post at his multiverse.world blog, and in it he goes and does a little bit of an overview of the OSR, some of the primary retro clones and stuff. I thought, there's a ton of retro clones out there, by the way. We should look at the beginning of the OSR. What formed the OSR when it comes to rule sets, what brought it into place, and then maybe go on from there and go on to derivative titles, like when we cover Swords Wizardry on its own, go into titles like White Star and Hero's Journey and Fantastical White Box and other derivatives of certain rule sets that are out there. So, when you look at the OSR, when you see where did it come from, the earliest seed, if you want to call it that, is probably Hackmaster 4th edition, which is really the first Hackmaster game, which came into place, or came into being, because Wizards of the Coast reprinted, well, they didn't really reprint, they reissued the first 250 issues of Dragon magazine digitally on CDs, and I have it. Awesome, great product, but here's the issue. They didn't reach out to counter company and say, hey, can we reissue your Knights of the Dinner Table strips? That was an issue, because apparently Wizards of the Coast only had, it was either first rights, or they only had rights for print and not other media. And since this was digital, oops. So, Kenzer got the rights to use 1E and 2E rules and adventures, but they had to make it humorous. They had to camp it up. And that's what they did. Now, I consider this like a proto-clone or a proto-OSR. It's not really OSR because it's licensed from Wizards of the Coast, number one. It's camp, and it's not released under the OGL. And I think the OGL is very important for this. But it certainly showed that there was an interest for people to still keep playing in the out-of-print games of 1 and 2E, because this is 2001. All right. So let's move on from there. Our next notable game is Castles and Crusades. This is 2004. This was released under the OGL. And it's like basically a stripped-down version of the D20 3.0 rules. Stripped down and then reimagined as if they were AT&D rules. Interesting. A lot of ways, this is an OGL game. It's an OGL game because it's or not an OGL game, it's an OSR game. Because it uses the OGL and tries to emulate an earlier edition, or at least a feel for it. It didn't do the mechanics necessarily, but it went for the feel for it. So you can consider Castles and Crusades that primordial? No. OSR Prime, I guess. It's like that. That's the beginning. As we go, looking back at evolution, this is the Neanderthal man, or this is what became the OSR. This is the seed. This said, it's doable. move on from there. What, in my opinion, I mean, if this is what the seed was, what really made it grow? That's OSRIC. OSRIC, by Matt Finch and Stuart Marshall, was written to rewrite the AD&D 1E rules so that publishers could refer to OSRIC in their adventure products and allow you to say compatible with OSRIC or for use with OSRIC, not mentioning AD&D 1E, which you can't mention if you're using the LGL, but you can mention a clone. They didn't know if they were going to get sued. They didn't. So OSRIC opened, if the seed was Castles Crusades, OSRIC opened the door and said this is possible. To actually say we are going to reimagine a prior edition. We are going to rewrite it. So next up would be Labyrinth Lord. Okay. Labyrinth Lord came out in 2007. Labyrinth Lord reimagined, and I call it reimagining because they basically stripped the 3 rules down to nothing, or its core, and then rebuilt it as if Basic Expert was built off of 3E, which is why your OGL is such a great and wonderful thing, in my opinion, for the OSR. So, now we have Labyrinth Lord. Okay. Now, that's Daniel Proctor. The Labyrinth Lord took the Basic Expert, put it into one book, more comprehensive, easier to read, easier to follow, because it's all in one book now. We have your second or third retro clone, depending on whether you consider Castles Crusades a full retro clone. I do, but I don't think that Castles Crusades created the OSR. The OSR starts, I think, in my opinion, with OSRIC opening up that door. Now, the interesting thing about OSRIC, before I go on even further, is again, OSRIC was written as a reference material. It was for publishers could publish and refer to OSRIC for their old school adventures. It became so popular that it had to get rewritten for a second printing, and the second printing was made to actually be used at the table. Although people were using the first print at the table. I know I did. All right. Excuse me. So, we've covered those. Now, we come up to the next part of the beginning of the OSR. Well, again, it takes place over a number of years, but by the time Swords Wizardry, again, written by Matt Finch, comes out, Swords and Wizardry, which emulates original D&D, the original Swords and Wizardry rules weren't the white box rules; they were the core rules, which became the core rules. And it's the original white box plus some of the stuff from, I guess, Greyhawk. Now, here you are. You've got these games coming out, and the last 3 rule sets are what opens things up, because OSRIC, Labyrinth Lord, and Swords and Wizardry allow you to publish adventures or support material, or definitely in the case of Swords and Wizardry, even rewrite the rules and publish your own game based upon them. Castles and Crusades isn't open like that. You can't, or you couldn't write for Castles and Crusades unless it was being published by Troll Lord Games. But these last 3 rule sets to come out is what caused the opening of the OSR. It caused this little revival in old school gaming, because these rule sets were also free. Castles and Crusades was not free. You had to pay for it. Initially, I don't think there was even a PDF version initially. It was only in print. But when it came to OSRIC, it was out there, offered for free. Labyrinth Lord in PDF, offered for free. Swords and Wizardry in PDF, offered for free. This allows its groundswell to come up, and it allows other games to follow. And there are a huge number of retro clones or simulacrum, there's different levels of that, out there. There's more than one way to experience your BX. There's more than one way to experience your white box. There's more than one way to experience your AD&D clones. Although OSRIC is certainly the one people think about primarily, but there's others out there. So what we're going to do going forward, and this is not going to necessarily be tomorrow, but going forward, I am going to start covering the retro clones. I am going to include some information on the post that will accompany each podcast episode. So you don't need to delve into the episode if you don't want to, but the episode's going to be a lot more complete than the basic information I will be including on the blog post. So that's your July 4th gift. This is what we're going to be starting. And I got to think, again, I got to thank Christopher Bishop. His idea was great. And really, I'll link his blog post on the post that accompanies this because it's worth looking at. Like I said, there's just so much out there. And even if it's just an overview of the history, I mean, I'm sure I could reach out and delve deeper into this. Which, by the way, delving deeper is another clone of OD&D White Box. You see, there's a lot of stuff out there. So we will delve into it. All right. So, folks, thank you much for joining me. If you listen on iTunes or you have access to iTunes, please leave us a review. It's always appreciated. It's July 4th. Seriously, stay safe. If you're lighting off fireworks, do it safely. Don't be an ass. God bless. Roll your dice well. And I will talk to you all tomorrow. Be good.